Welcome back to our deep dive into the Quran.
It's great to be back.
Last time we touched on the Quran's impact on Muslim life, the beauty of its language, and the challenges of translating it.
Right.
Are you ready to jump into the depths of Chapter 2?
Absolutely.
The longest chapter in the Quran.
Yeah, it's known as the cow,
Wait.
or Al-Baqarah in Arabic.
What makes this chapter so fascinating?
Well, it's like a microcosm of the whole Quran.
Really?
It covers everything from stories of the prophets to social laws to spiritual reflections.
It feels like a massive journey.
It is.
So where do we even begin?
The chapter opens with a powerful declaration of faith in the first 5 verses.
Oh, wow.
Belief in God the unseen, the day of judgment.
Okay.
It's all laid out right from the start.
Wow.
Drawing a clear distinction between those who believe and those who don't.
So it sets the stage.
It does.
For the core principles that are going to be explored throughout the chapter.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that these verses also set a triumphant tone. Verse 2.4 specifically mentions how disbelievers have despaired of the Muslims' religion,
I see.
reflecting the establishment of the Muslim community in Medina at the time.
So it's not just about abstract beliefs.
No.
But about a community finding its footing and asserting its identity.
Yes.
I can already see how understanding the historical context really adds another layer of meaning to these verses.
Right. And that's key to unpacking this chapter.
Uh-huh.
Now, before we move on, did those mysterious letters at the very beginning of the chapter catch your attention?
The separated letters.
Yes.
Or al-Muqawwajat.
Exactly.
It's like a secret code.
They appear at the beginning of 29 chapters in the Quran, and scholars have been debating their meaning for centuries.
Really?
Yeah, some theories suggest they might be a name for the Quran itself, or even the greatest name of God.
It's amazing how something so seemingly simple can spark so much discussion and interpretation.
I know, it's fascinating.
Speaking of layers,
Yes.
Chapter 2 is packed with stories of the prophets.
It is.
Why are these familiar narratives so prominent?
Well, they highlight the mistakes of previous generations,
Okay.
and they serve as a cautionary tale.
Interesting.
Like, take the story of the golden calf in verses 2.5154 and 92-93.
Okay.
Even after witnessing God's miracles, the Israelites fall into idolatry.
It's a reminder that it's easy to forget God's favors and the consequences that come with disobedience.
It is a reminder of that.
It makes you think about our own tendencies to stray from the path.
Right.
Even when we've seen the proof.
Exactly. These stories are meant to prompt introspection.
Okay.
They urge us to learn from the past and avoid repeating those same errors.
So is there a story that particularly resonates with you?
The story of Abraham rejecting idol worship in verses 2.7678.
Okay.
It's a powerful one.
What makes it so powerful?
It's not just about rejecting idols, it's about the human search for meaning, our yearning for something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
It speaks to the universal desire to connect with the divine and find truth amidst falsehood.
It's about that inherent longing within us to find our way back to the source.
Exactly.
Speaking of finding our way back,
Yes.
the theme of God's mercy and forgiveness is woven throughout these stories,
Right.
especially in the story of Moses.
Yes. Even after grave mistakes, there's always a possibility of redemption.
So beautiful.
Verse 2.153 illustrates this beautifully.
Oh, wow.
It reminds us that God's mercy is always available to those who genuinely repent.
It's like a beacon of light,
It is.
guiding us back to the path.
Exactly.
But Chapter 2 doesn't just focus on individual redemption.
No, it doesn't.
It lays down the groundwork for a just and equitable society.
Absolutely. Verses 2.178-179
Okay.
talk about the law of retribution,
Yeah.
particularly in cases of murder.
I see.
This was groundbreaking at the time,
Really?
aimed at ending the cycle of tribal vendettas and establishing a fairer system.
So it was about bringing order to a society that was often governed by revenge.
It was.
It's fascinating how these verses address very specific challenges of the time,
Right.
while also laying down principles that are still relevant today.
They are still relevant.
And speaking of addressing specific challenges,
Yeah.
the Quran also tackles the complex issue of inheritance in verses 2.180-182.
Yes. These verses were crucial.
Okay.
In a society where inheritance disputes were very common,
I see.
outlining how wealth should be distributed among family members
Okay.
to ensure fairness and prevent conflict.
Even today, these verses highlight the importance of clarity and justice in these matters.
They do.
Even though interpretations may differ based on various schools of Islamic jurisprudence,
That's right.
it's incredible how this chapter seamlessly weaves together the spiritual and the practical,
He does.
offering guidance for both our inner and outer lives.
That's the beauty of it.
It really is.
It's not just about abstract concepts.
Wow.
It's about providing a practical framework for living a life
Okay.
that is both meaningful and just.
Speaking of living with integrity,
Yes.
verse 2.188
Okay.
is a powerful reminder
It-
about the importance of sincerity in our actions and intentions.
It challenges us to live authentically
Yeah.
and to ensure that our actions are aligned with our values.
Wow.
It reminds us that God knows what's in our hearts.
Right.
So true piety goes beyond mere outward appearances.
It's about being true to ourselves and to our relationship with God.
It is.
This emphasis on inner transformation is underscored by the concept of dhikr,
Yes. Remembering God.
as mentioned in verse 2.205.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Think of dhikr as a kind of mindfulness practice,
Okay.
but with a spiritual focus.
Okay.
It's not just about reciting phrases.
Okay.
It's about cultivating continuous awareness of God's presence.
Hmm.
Imagine bringing that awareness into your everyday moments
Yeah.
while you're working, walking, even eating.
Yeah.
It's about fostering a constant connection with the divine.
So it's about infusing our lives with the sense of the sacred,
Exactly.
making our everyday actions an act of worship. It's a beautiful concept that resonates with that human longing for connection and meaning.
Absolutely. And speaking of connection,
Yeah.
Chapter 2 also addresses the importance of respecting other faiths and their scriptures.
Okay.
Verse 2.285 emphasizes the Quran's perspective on religious pluralism, recognizing the validity of previous prophets and revelations.
It's a message of tolerance and understanding that's
Yeah.
so relevant in our world today,
It is.
reminding us to embrace diversity and respect different paths to the divine.
Yes. But Chapter 2 doesn't shy away from the big questions either, such
Sure.
as, well, like the balance between human free will and divine decree.
Oh, wow.
Verse 2.286 tackles this head on,
Okay.
reminding us that while we have the freedom to choose our actions,
Yeah.
God ultimately has knowledge of all that will unfold.
It's a humbling thought.
It is.
We have the agency to make choices,
Right.
but we're also part of a larger plan.
Yes.
It encourages us to take responsibility for our actions while also acknowledging that there's a bigger picture that we may not always fully grasp.
We may not.
It's like this delicate dance
It is.
between striving and surrendering.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow, we're uncovering so many layers in just this first part of the chapter.
I know, right?
We haven't even touched on things like marriage and divorce and the concept of jihad.
There's so much more to explore.
This is shaping up to be an incredible journey.
It is going to be fascinating.
I'm excited to dive into the rest of this chapter.
It really does cover a lot, doesn't it?
That's right.
It's not just abstract concepts either.
Yeah.
It gets into the nitty-gritty of life, like marriage and divorce.
Verses 2.221-242 cover some sensitive areas.
They do.
Polygamy, the waiting period for women after divorce, the rights of both parties.
Right. It's a lot to unpack.
It is.
And it's important to remember the context.
Okay.
These verses were revealed in a society where women often had very few rights.
Oh, I see.
So the Quran, in many ways, revolutionized their position, granting them rights and protections they hadn't had before.
It's easy to forget how groundbreaking that was at the time.
It is.
But even today,
Yes.
these verses spark debate and raise questions
I do.
about how they apply in contemporary contexts.
Absolutely. It highlights the ongoing challenge of interpreting and applying ancient texts
Yeah.
in a constantly evolving world.
It's a reminder that understanding the historical and social context is so crucial
It is.
for any meaningful interpretation.
Right.
Okay, deep divers, buckle up because we're about to enter a truly profound section of chapter 2.
Oh, wow.
This is a verse that for me captures the essence of Islam.
Let's hear it.
Verse 2.286,
Okay.
a masterpiece of concise wisdom.
I agree.
It acknowledges the power of God, the reality of human free will,
Right.
and the immense responsibility we have for our actions.
Yeah, it's a verse I find myself coming back to again and again.
Me too.
It's powerful.
It's a reminder that we're not just passive players in the grand scheme of things.
Right. We have choices to make, paths to choose,
Yeah.
and the power to shape our own destiny.
But at the same time,
Yes.
it acknowledges that there's a higher purpose at play, a divine plan
Right.
that we may not always fully understand.
We may not.
That tension between human agency and divine will, is at the heart of this verse.
It is both humbling and empowering.
It is.
It encourages us to strive for excellence,
Yes.
knowing that our efforts matter,
Yeah.
while also recognizing the limits of our understanding and control.
It's like this delicate dance between striving and surrendering.
It is.
And it's a dance that's not just confined to the spiritual realm.
Right.
Chapter 2 also emphasizes the importance of ethical conduct
It does.
in our everyday lives.
Yes.
Especially in our financial dealings.
Verses like 2.282, which outlines guidelines for financial transactions,
Oh.
highlights this.
What does it say?
It's about transparency, fairness, honoring agreements. You know, these principles are rooted in a deep sense of accountability, recognizing that even our worldly affairs have spiritual implications.
So spirituality isn't something separate from our daily lives.
Exactly.
It's about bringing those values of honesty, integrity, and compassion into every aspect of our existence.
Right. And chapter 2 doesn't just tell us what to do.
Okay.
It shows us how to be.
What do you mean?
It encourages the cultivation of virtues like patience, forgiveness, kindness, and generosity.
Those are important.
They are seen as essential for spiritual growth
Uh-huh.
and for creating a more just and harmonious society.
It's about character development,
It is.
becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Exactly. Both for our own benefit and for the betterment of humanity.
And these themes,
Yes,
they resonate far beyond the confines of any specific religion or culture.
they do.
They speak to that universal human desire for meaning, purpose, and connection.
Absolutely.
Chapter 2 is this treasure trove of wisdom and guidance
It is.
that continues to speak to people across time and cultures.
A chapter that deserves to be studied, contemplated, and lived. It really does.
But before we wrap up our exploration of this incredible chapter,
Yes.
there's one more key theme we need to address.
And what's that?
The concept of jihad.
Okay.
It's a term that's often misunderstood and misrepresented.
It is, especially in today's world.
What insights does Chapter 2 offer on this complex and often controversial topic?
Well, it's important to understand that the word jihad literally means struggle or striving.
I see.
It's about exerting effort in the path of God.
Okay.
And this effort can take many forms.
So it's not just about physical fighting, as many people assume.
Not at all. The Quran actually recognizes different types of jihad.
Okay.
There's the greater jihad,
Uh.
which is the inner struggle against our own weaknesses and desires.
Oh,
It's the battle we fight within ourselves
Okay.
to overcome negativity, cultivate virtue, and purify our hearts.
It's about self-improvement, becoming better human beings.
It is.
It's that inner work that we often neglect,
We do.
but it's the foundation for a truly meaningful life.
Right. And then there's the lesser jihad,
Okay.
which can include physical fighting,
Wow.
but only in very specific circumstances,
Like what?
like self-defense or defending the oppressed.
I see.
And even then, the Quran emphasizes strict rules of engagement,
Okay.
prioritizing the preservation of life and minimizing harm.
So it's about protecting the vulnerable and upholding justice,
Yeah, it is.
not about aggression or conquest.
Exactly. Chapter 2 makes it clear that war is a last resort,
Okay.
and it should be conducted with the utmost restraint,
Uh-huh.
avoiding unnecessary bloodshed and protecting innocent lives.
So the ultimate goal is to establish peace and create a just and harmonious society.
Exactly. It's a far cry from the distorted and often violent image of jihad
Yeah,
that's often portrayed in the media.
it is.
The Quranic concept of jihad is about striving for peace, justice, and the well-being of all humanity.
That's a very different picture.
It is a nuanced and multifaceted concept that requires careful study and understanding.
It's a reminder that simplistic interpretations and generalizations can be dangerous,
They can.
especially when dealing with complex and sensitive topics.
Absolutely. And speaking of nuanced interpretations,
Yeah?
Chapter 2 also touches on the sensitive topic of dietary laws,
Oh, okay.
specifically the prohibition of certain foods like pork and alcohol.
What does it say about
Verses like 2.173 offer insights into the reasoning behind these prohibitions, emphasizing the importance of purity and avoiding harm.
So these dietary guidelines are presented within a broader context
They are.
of ethical living and spiritual well-being.
Exactly. These laws aren't just arbitrary rules. They're meant to guide believers toward a healthier and more mindful way of life, both physically and spiritually.
It's a holistic approach to health and well-being,
It is.
recognizing the interconnectedness of our physical, mental, and spiritual states.
Right. And it reminds us that even seemingly mundane aspects of our lives, like what we eat and drink, can have a profound impact on our overall well-being.
Wow. Chapter 2 continues to surprise me with its breadth and depth.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's like a tapestry woven with threads of spirituality, ethics, social justice, and practical guidance for daily living.
It's a testament to the Quran's timeless relevance.
It is.
And its ability to speak to the deepest longings of the human heart.
We've covered so much ground.
We have.
But I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
There's always more to discover.
Is there anything else that particularly stands out to you in this section of the chapter?
One verse that I find particularly intriguing is 2.186.
Go ahead.
Where God says, "And when my servants ask you, O Muhammad, concerning me, indeed I am near. I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls upon me."
Wow.
This verse highlights the accessibility and responsiveness of the divine.
It does.
It reminds us that we can turn to God in any moment with any need.
Yeah.
And he will hear us.
It's a comforting thought.
It is, especially in times of difficulty or uncertainty.
Yeah.
It speaks to the power of prayer and the intimate connection between the Creator and his creation.
It's a reminder that we're never truly alone.
Why not?
And that divine guidance and support are always available to us if we seek them.
Exactly. It's a beautiful reminder of the profound love and mercy that permeates the Quran.
It is. And speaking of love and mercy,
Yes,
Chapter 2 also addresses the importance of treating our parents with kindness and respect.
it does, particularly as they age.
Verses like 2.83 remind us of the sacrifices our parents have made for us
Right.
and urge us to show them gratitude and compassion.
It's a universal value.
It is.
That transcends cultural boundaries.
Honoring our parents and caring for them, especially in their times of need,
Yes.
is a fundamental aspect of a virtuous life.
And it's a reminder that our relationships with our families are a reflection of our relationship with God.
Right.
How we treat those closest to us is a measure of our spiritual maturity and our commitment to living a life of compassion and kindness.
It's about recognizing the sacredness of those bonds
It is.
and nurturing them with love and respect.
Exactly. And as we delve deeper into Chapter 2,
Yes.
we'll find that this emphasis on compassion extends beyond our immediate families.
To encompass all of humanity.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a heart
Okay.
that is open to the suffering of others
Uh-huh.
and a willingness to extend a helping hand wherever it's needed.
It's about recognizing our shared humanity
It is.
and striving to create a world where justice, mercy, and compassion prevail.
A powerful and timely message,
It is.
especially in a world that often feels divided and polarized.
So Chapter 2 offers a roadmap for building bridges of understanding and compassion,
It does.
reminding us that we're all interconnected and responsible for one another's well-being.
Absolutely. It's a message of hope and a call to action,
It is.
urging us to move beyond our differences and work together to create a more just and harmonious world.
And it's a reminder that our actions, no matter how small, can make a difference.
You can.
Every act of kindness, every gesture of compassion, every effort to uphold justice
Yes.
contributes to the betterment of humanity.
It does. It's about recognizing our power to create positive change in the world,
Yeah.
both individually and collectively.
And it's about approaching our lives with a sense of purpose and meaning,
Exactly.
knowing that our actions have ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves.
They do. Chapter 2 is a wellspring of inspiration and guidance,
It is.
offering timeless wisdom that continues to resonate with people from all walks of life.
It's a testament to the power of Scripture to illuminate our paths, challenge our assumptions,
Right?
and inspire us to live lives of greater meaning and purpose.
Absolutely.
This journey through Chapter 2 is already proving to be incredibly insightful and thought-provoking.
It is.
I'm excited to see where it takes us next.
It's amazing how it connects everything together, isn't it?
That's right.
From dietary guidelines to profound theological concepts.
Yeah, it's like it's anticipating all the questions we have
It
as
is.
we try to figure out our lives
Right.
and where we fit in.
Exactly.
One thing that's been on my mind
Yeah.
is how Chapter 2 addresses fighting and warfare.
Okay.
You know, it feels particularly relevant today.
It does, with so much conflict in the world.
Yeah, with so much violence.
Right. It's a topic that generates a lot of discussion and debate.
It does.
And it's important to remember that the Quran doesn't present a black and white view of war.
Oh, okay.
It acknowledges the complexities and the moral dilemmas involved.
So it's not about glorifying violence
No.
or promoting aggression.
Not at all. In fact, the Quran clearly states that fighting is only permissible
Okay.
in very specific circumstances,
Like what?
like self-defense
Okay.
or defending those who are being oppressed.
I see.
And even then,
Uh-huh.
there are strict rules of engagement
Okay.
aimed at minimizing harm
Okay.
and protecting innocent lives.
So it's more about upholding justice
Yes.
and protecting the vulnerable
Right.
than it is about conquest or domination.
Exactly.
It challenges those simplistic narratives we hear
It does.
about Islam and violence.
It's crucial to approach these topics with nuance and understanding.
Yeah.
Recognizing the historical context, the diversity of interpretations, and
Right.
the ethical principles
Yeah.
that guide Muslim beliefs and actions.
It's a reminder that engaging with these texts requires careful study
It does.
and a willingness to go beyond those surface-level understandings.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that makes this deep dive so rewarding.
It is.
We're not just skimming the surface.
Yeah.
We're grappling with these ideas
Well,
and exploring all the different layers of meaning.
And speaking of layers,
Yes.
Chapter 2 also touches on those really personal and intimate matters,
It does.
like the dynamics between husbands and wives.
Right. The Quran recognizes marriage as a sacred bond
Okay.
and emphasizes mutual respect, love, and compassion between spouses. Verses like 2.187 beautifully describe the relationship between husband and wife
Oh, wow.
as one of comfort and tranquility,
That's beautiful.
where each partner finds solace and support in the other.
It's a beautiful vision of marriage
It is.
as a partnership built on mutual understanding and shared values.
And while the Quran acknowledges the different roles and responsibilities
Yeah.
of husbands and wives,
Uh,
it also emphasizes treating each other with fairness and equity.
so it's about recognizing the inherent dignity and worth of both partners
Exactly.
and fostering a relationship
Yeah,
based on love, respect, and mutual support.
absolutely. And Chapter 2 doesn't shy away from addressing marital conflict and divorce either.
It doesn't.
It provides guidelines for navigating these challenges
Yeah.
with grace and compassion, prioritizing reconciliation whenever possible.
So it recognizes that relationships can be messy
They can be.
and that sometimes, despite our best efforts, things don't work out.
Right, but even in those difficult situations,
Uh-huh.
the Quran emphasizes acting with justice and kindness.
So it's about preserving the dignity of all those involved, even in the midst of heartbreak and separation.
Exactly.
Chapter 2 also addresses the often taboo topic of sexual intimacy.
It does.
What perspective does it offer on this aspect of human experience?
Well, the Quran approaches sexuality with a sense of both openness and sacredness.
Yeah.
It recognizes the natural desires and urges that exist between men and women,
Right.
but it also emphasizes expressing these desires within the boundaries of marriage.
So it's about channeling those energies
Yes.
in a way that is both fulfilling and aligned with ethical and spiritual principles.
Exactly.
The Quran emphasizes the beauty and intimacy of the marital bond
It does.
and encourages couples to find joy and pleasure in their physical relationship.
Right. But at the same time, it stresses modesty, respect,
Okay.
and treating each other with tenderness and care.
It's a holistic view of sexuality
It is.
that acknowledges both the physical and the emotional dimensions.
Absolutely. And it's a far cry from the often distorted and unhealthy views of sexuality that are prevalent in many cultures today.
That's true. The Quran offers a balanced and healthy perspective
It does.
that emphasizes both pleasure and responsibility.
yeah.
This deep dive into Chapter 2 has been eye-opening.
It has been fascinating.
We've covered so much,
Yeah.
from the foundations of faith to the complexities of human relationships and social issues.
Right. What are some of the key takeaways that have resonated with you?
For me, it's the chapter's emphasis on balance.
How interesting.
It addresses both our inner and outer lives,
Yeah.
the spiritual and the practical, the individual and the collective.
Right. It's about striving for excellence in all aspects of our lives.
Yes.
While remaining grounded in humility and gratitude.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of everything
It is.
and living in a way that honors our humanity and our divinity.
Absolutely. And for me, the chapter's message of hope and compassion really shines through,
It does.
even when facing challenges.
Yeah.
The Quran reminds us of God's mercy and the possibility of transformation and redemption.
It's a message that offers solace and guidance
It does.
in a world that often feels so uncertain.
And chaotic.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
We've explored the historical and social context of Chapter 2's Revelation.
Right?
But how might understanding that context shed light on its relevance in the modern world? What lessons can we glean from these ancient verses that can help us navigate the challenges of today?
It's a question that invites us to continue exploring,
It does.
to keep digging deeper,
Yes.
and to find new meaning and relevance in these timeless teachings.
Absolutely. This deep dive has been a testament to the power of the Quran,
It has.
to inspire, challenge, and guide us on our journeys.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Likewise, it's been a wonderful discussion.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the heart of the Quran. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking the wisdom that lies within yonder.